Hey, it's Paul Nerman or Nermix from the Intellivisionaries podcast, and you're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
Hey guys, Papa Pete back today. Actually, I'm not back. This is just a recording. I can't stream today because I'm on my way to Portland, Oregon for Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2023. Great shirt. I got this from Casey last year, right? For the 2022 one. And I couldn't wait to go there this year. They talked me into flying out. I'm flying out to Vancouver, and I'm heading down with C-Mart, Luke, and Don. So that's Tarzilla and the Intellivision Collector, and of course C-Mart, right? We're gonna have such a great time driving down there from Vancouver. I can't wait to get to the show and to meet all kinds of different members of the Intellivision community, including a lot who might be watching here right now. But anyway, I didn't want to leave the stream night open, so what I decided to do is play a best of episode from one of my interviews, and I couldn't think of a better interview to play than the one that I did with the Intellivisionaries back December 28th, 2021 with C-Mart, with Rick Reynolds, who I'm going to meet face-to-face finally there at Portland this year, as well as Paul Nermanen. Fantastic group of guys. Great podcast, one of my all-time favorite podcasts. I mean, I've listened to all of them probably multiple times now because I just find them so informative and just entertaining in general. So without any further ado, I hope to be in the chat. So I'm making this a premiere, but I may or may not be able to join the chat. I'm not sure just yet what my timing will be. But in the meantime, here is my December 28th, 2021 interview with the Intellivisionaries. Here we go.
Hey, it's Paul Nerman or Nermix from the Intellivisionaries podcast.
I'm Rick Reynolds of the Intellivisionaries podcast. And you're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
And you're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
You're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.
And welcome to Papa Pete Live. This is the show I've been waiting for a long time. It's not Papa Pete Live tonight. It is the Intellivisionaries podcast live. So welcome to Paul, Chris, and Rick. Thanks for joining Jeff and I tonight for a little bit of a chat. We're going to hop in chat room here already. Great to have you guys with us tonight. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris slimmed down a little bit since his press photo.
That's the picture that I always found. There you go.
It's all that gym equipment in the house that you're not using.
And listen, I got to comment on that Boston Red Sox shirt too. I mean, that is classy right there.
Yeah.
It's actually a Boston Braves shirt, but
yeah, it is too. But yeah, it's close enough. I'll give you it.
It's better though.
So, chat, we got all kinds in the chat tonight. TV's Hasselhoff, Luke Boudreau. Luke, Jeff and I did not wear these shirts on purpose. It just sort of worked out that way. Great minds think alike. Lance, of course, Lance Jennings is there. Michael Hayes, good to see you, Michael. All kinds of knowledge about creating games, and glad to see you're feeling better and on there tonight. Doug Parsons, who am I missing? JD's there. Mike Banazinski, I do not know. I haven't seen you here before. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it.
He's our fourth listener, I believe.
Is that right? There you go.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Mike.
Let's see. Who else is there? Roger Matthews And holy cow, Kurt Bradshaw's there, and a lot back at the beginning. Big Doomer, of course. The Big Doomer was one of my very first interviews that I did on my channel, and that was will be 1 year ago tomorrow that him and I had the big talk about. We talked about Lock and Chase and his world record at Intellivision Lock and Chase. So that was a lot of fun then too. So thanks for tuning in tonight. Yeah, that is a nice shirt right there, isn't it? Anyway, guys, let's get right to it. The Intellivisionaries podcast. You just had your two-part top 10 favorite games episodes out over the last. When did the first one come out? November, Paul?
No, we did October and then November, end of the month.
October, November.
Yep.
That was a project, huh?
You could say that. I mean, it was delayed by real life things that happened in my family, but also just getting together, recording and editing the 850,000 sound drops that were in that episode.
Yeah, really.
Many thanks to Pete for that, by the way, too, because Pete.
Yes, we thanked him on the show, but again, you helped out because Rick couldn't be bothered, so you had to do some heavy lifting and get some sounds for us.
And just so the chat knows, I've already been forewarned, but basically this is going to end up being a 2 hour, an hour and a half, whatever it is, live stream where we're basically going to talk about all of Rick's faults and the ways that they managed to get the Intellivisionaries podcast put together, despite Rick being involved.
Apparently, that's how it works, yeah.
Is that how it seems to work, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
I do have to
You're going to
say
need
one
more
other,
than 2 hours for that.
one other thing before I go any further. This is my last one. I just cracked it. This came from the Intellivision collector himself. You're killing me, Smalls. S'mores Ale. My very last one. I thought I had finished all of them. I found one more in the downstairs fridge yesterday, so I said that's the perfect thing to start off the North Vancouver Brewery. You familiar with that one, Chris?
No, I hadn't seen it until I guess Luke sent you that one. I actually hadn't seen it before.
Oh, okay. Right there in your neck of the woods, anyway. So, what a color, huh?
I'm a Sleeman's Honey Brown guy, so
I like that too, but I like the small microbrews a lot better. But I just like, I don't know, trying different areas have different beers, and they all have their
I've seen. What's your approval rating on your? Would you say about 98%?
My approval rating so far is, I think, 112 to 1.
I did see the one too.
I saw that one too, Pete.
And there's a couple of.
We were talking one day. You said, "Is there a beer that you don't like?" And it's kind of like a video game. There are video games that I probably really don't like, but I just don't talk about them much. I don't talk about them badly. I'll talk about the ones that I like, and I do like most beers. They're all right. There's some that I've had quite a few of those that I'll never ever buy another one. But I didn't pour them out, so
That's fair.
bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, you'd already opened it. You might as well keep going, right?
That's right. Yeah, agree 100%. So, Junebug's there. Steve Jones. Holy cow, we're filling it up. That's great. So, let's go right back to talk about television. Now, Paul was here a few weeks ago. We talked about how he started with an Atari. His friend had an Intellivision stuff. But Chris and Rick, Chris, why don't you go first? What's your history with the Intellivision from when we're all about the same age? And played it back in the day in some fashion. What's your history with the Intellivision way back when?
Yeah, my dad, I think I've said this on the podcast before. My dad knew the president or vice president of Mattel Canada. And a buddy had got a VCS, Atari VCS in, say, 78 or 79, whatever it was. Long story short, my dad ended up getting me, through the guy at Mattel, an Intellivision. And it was, I want to say 1980. It was earlier, like no one else had one at that point. I knew it existed. I'd seen it in stores and stuff, but it hadn't really dawned on me to ask for one. So he picked me up one along with, this is a bit foggy, but obviously poker. And then I'm pretty sure it was Armor Battle, NFL, Major League Baseball. And I want to say it was Space Battle. I feel like that might have been the fifth one, 4 plus the poker. Anyways, so I had it as a kid. I would have been, I'm born in 68, so I would have been 12. And I probably played it till about 83. Yeah, I think. And then girls sports.
Yeah.
Rick, that's when guys often get together with other guys that play in a team, and there's usually a ball or a stick or a hoop. It's sports ball.
I don't.
I got it. Yeah, I got into sports ball and girls. So that kind of took me away from playing, and then I think my mom gave it away to my cousins, younger cousins, probably about 2 or 3 years later.
Right.
But yeah, growing up in the neighborhood, one of the kids had an Atari, I had the Intellivision. One of the kids across the road ended up getting a Coleco as well, and we would just go between the houses in the area. I've also talked about on the show a lot, especially during that top 10 episode, that I had friends who lived down in Torrance and down in LA.
Yeah.
And we would go down there 2 or 3 times a year to see them, and I played a lot down there with my friend there as well. And it was a primary console of my youth. Although I played a lot of Atari. I never owned one then. I've acquired a few since. And then I got back in because I saw a thing in the paper. I was 96 or 97 when I'd seen an article about Keith and Intellivision Lives at that time. And I'm like, oh, I remember Intellivision. I love that. And so I found it. And then in 99, I was talking to a buddy of mine at work about it. He's like, oh, there's this place called eBay. You can find like anything on there. I'm like, really? Like, do you think I'd be able to find it in television? He's like, oh, I'm sure you would. So I signed up for eBay in 99, and $8 billion later, 2021 arrives, and I have just too much stuff. So that's
the reason
back
you have a
in
bigger house now, right?
the collecting.
And I was lucky enough to get to see a lot of it yesterday.
Yeah, I gave you a tour last night, and Paul won as well. But for Paul, I had no pants on for that tour. I took my pants off for the part 2 of the tour. He requested
Talk to him when he doesn't have his pants on.
That was a special request. Yeah, that is just so the chat does know, by the way. We did put a stipulation before we went live here that everybody did have pants. It is confirmed. So there's no worries there. If somebody gets up to go to the bathroom or whatever, that's fine. We won't get flashed. It'll be all fine.
Yeah, no. So Rick, it was really Rick that we're most concerned about. He's a lot of nudity goes into our
It's the
recording.
primary reason we're audio only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of video accidentally on Rick's part. He's like, oh, I hit the video
Hey,
button.
Oopsies.
Podcast.
Did my camera turn on?
How did you start with the Intellivision, Rick?
So probably similar story. I distinctly remember being in, I'm pretty sure it was a Sears, and they had the Intellivision and the Atari side by side.
Yeah.
There may have been an Odyssey 2 nearby as well. I don't remember, but I do remember the Atari and the Intellivision. And, they had the Intellivision, demo cart running. And so you saw a scene of football, and you saw, I think a baseball was in there too. But it had Space Battle, and I'm looking at that, and I'm seeing Battlestar Galactica, and I'm like, this is so awesome.
So you remember seeing Battlestar Galactica in that demo?
No. I'm saying that's what it looked like to me, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's what my little kid eyes saw on the screen, and it just looked.
Absolutely.
The sports titles looked like guys on the field and all that kind of stuff. So I don't remember anything happening there at the store, but I'm guessing I probably let my preferences be known. And we got for Christmas the Intellivision. I couldn't believe it was one of those things. I couldn't believe we got the better one. Like the one that looked better. I'm pretty sure we got, Program Blackjack came with it, and I'm pretty sure it was ball and Space Battle. It was either baseball or football. It's one of the two. We had those two. I was all in on Space Battle. Love that game. I still love that game. And it was I don't know. Yeah.
Might be a reason it was your number one pick.
Might be.
Yeah.
So it was probably 81 or 82. I'd have to go back and look at my notes to see if I can remember the exact year. No. Couldn't have been that.
It's weird you have to try to figure out exactly what it was, and that's Yeah.
Because we got one of the really early Commodore 64s. That's what switched me away from the Intellivision, was having a Commodore 64 and starting to play with that. So I think the 64 came in 82. So we played it for a good year or two before that.
We've already got a question, Rick, for
Is
you. I'm
that
gonna put you. I'm gonna put you full screen for a second.
Okay, sure.
You got some special
don't
things
stand
on
up.
here as well.
Hands on, please have hands.
He's got the assless chap, so be careful.
We did.
Well,
say-
what you got to see here is got under the desk.
So this is my new little Commodore computer corner thing in my home office here. And I'm really bad at this reverse thing. So that is a Commodore PET that I restored. It was not working when I got a hold of it. Primarily the monitor wasn't working. Mostly the board and the keyboard were good. I did have to repair the cassette deck too. Then I got, okay, it's hard. Then I got, this is the dual disk drive, which I've only played with a little bit because I have an SD card reader for the PET. And then back over here, I've got, and this is hard to do. This is a Commodore SX64 running the Christmas demo there on the monitor above it. Just something fun to do. But
And on the pad itself, you told me that you can sort of see it's a flickering candle, isn't it?
yeah, somebody it actually says Merry Christmas 2017.
Oh, okay.
Somebody wrote, so a lot of the original Commodore demo is just key characters. So the PET can do all the PETSCII characters that the Commodore can, and just can't do them in color. So it has, they were able to do the candle. That's all it does, the candle for that demo. But it's my fun little Commodore corner there.
Who are the herb wars? That's good eye right there, picking up on that. That's great. So you went on to say, your number one favorite Space Battle is number one of all time. I knew that before you did that episode, but it was a lot of fun listening to you guys talk about the games in that episode. Your favorite games and how they sort of overlapped quite a bit. Like you two, Paul and Chris, you had the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of people did. Mm-hmm. That's a super popular title. It's difficult, as you know, just to pick these things. And
yeah.
I thought it was pretty diverse that we could cover so many different games and at least, talk a little bit about each one, more so about the ones we picked and liked. But hopefully it was, especially like somebody maybe coming in that doesn't know all the original games. Maybe they're just getting into the Intellivision like Jeff. And it could be helpful, to fill out your catalog.
Well, Paul, didn't Steve, because Steve did that word cloud thing or whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It's a word cloud thing. It's a technical term for it.
Learner.
Folks
aside, wasn't there 90 something names? Because it was a collective from all the listener submissions. Wasn't it like 91 titles out of the 125 showed up on somebody's top 10?
Yeah. There were a much smaller percentage.
How many submissions did you have?
Submissions from listeners and
96,000.
Yeah, but they all picked for 91 games.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I didn't actually count that, Pete. I mean, we probably missed a few. We still have a list of stuff to go through on future episodes because the episode would have been 8 to 9 hours long if we were at every single one. Yeah, but we do plan to. I'm keeping track of who we've talked about, and there's some good lists. There's some surprises on a lot of people's lists.
And I'm not even thinking about like having read all the lists, but it'd be so neat to just compile all those lists and put every game, like assign a point value to each one, 15 for number one and 1 for number 10, and then assign them points and then see what the collective top 10 is for everybody, right? It'd be so neat to do something like that.
We have those numbers, but the problem is when Steve Kraft, I don't know if he's in the chat.
I think
when he initially compiled that was when we were recording back in March or so, February, March. So we got a lot more submissions after that because there was such a long period of downtime. But yeah, we could probably come out with something like that, and maybe we'll put it in an episode or post it on the Facebook page or something.
You guys have a pretty... Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I just noticed Mike had posted about being up for a 9-hour show. Mike, did I pronounce your name right?
Benezinski?
I went with Benezinski because these two are too chicken to be.
That's like a hockey goalie name right there.
Hey, you're not wrong, actually. That's a good.
There you go. Yeah.
Mike, we're all waiting for you to respond in the comment section at this point.
The show is coming to a screeching halt, waiting for Mike.
Yeah,
we'll wait.
Can I talk about there we go,
Banishinsky. See, you
Chris,
forgot the H.
For the win.
You didn't put the SH. You didn't say that.
I
You
did
said
so
Banazinski.
No, Banishevsky, I nailed it. I'm amazing at this.
I have the tape. I can
I should
play
do
it.
I'm sure you have a pretty good idea what the number one game was overall. It was AD&D, correct? Cloudy Mountain.
Yeah.
Well, it depends.
But Burger Time was
No, actually, it was Burger Time.
Burger
Yeah,
Time was the number one based
For
on the
everything.
stats that we had at the time. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Not by us, but
No.
yeah, the combined totals
Really?
of
That
listeners
does
and
surprise
everyone
me.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of most
That does
mentions,
surprise me.
it didn't adjust for position, I don't think. Because a lot of people put a bloody number, put a number beside, pick your number one. We're
Yeah, I'm not sure.
guessing. We're like, is
I'm
it
not sure
10
it
or
was.
what?
Yeah, I don't think it was a
Interpreted.
weighted total. It was just like if a game got mentioned in somebody's top 10, it got in there once, and then you counted them all up.
Yeah.
So-
We didn't do the 10 to 1 thing.
Okay, yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to have a number for everyone. We know we talked about that. We talked about that when I was on the show about some of the ones were Brian. Some of the ones weren't numbered. 10 favorite games in no particular order. I had to say, come on, come
Yeah,
in. For
yeah.
sake, you know?
Most
Not
people
that big of a
did.
deal.
Luke,
Hotel Bunny is my absolute favorite homebrew. That is for sure. I play that usually a couple hours every day.
Hotel
But,
Bunny?
Anyway,
It's the
what's that?
Like Hotel Bunny a couple hours each day? Is that what
Hotel Bunny, yeah.
Show it to me on your shelf behind you.
Yeah, there you go.
All 75 copies.
I do know where there's 3 or 4.
it's a
Oh,
sharp
sure.
shot.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
why don't you have Sharp Shot on the shelf behind you, Rick? Or do you?
Why isn't it featured?
I
I
don't,
can't see it.
I don't have a lot
I
of
thought you'd have
television
one.
up in my office right now.
Yeah, the whole basement is full of the gaming room now.
The basement is the gaming room mainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Your
hockey
name should
goalie.
be JD Dorzinski, and then you could be a hockey goalie, NHL goalie, JD. So, where we go now? So,
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of hockey, I forgot to put the video of me and my buddy playing hockey in my parents' garage. I have it. I forgot to post it on YouTube. We talked about it in the last episode.
Your short shorts and your mesh.
No, unfortunately, and as much as you wanted to see that, I wasn't in the short cutoffs or the crop top. Sorry.
It was a mesh Hawaii 80.
I don't know. There's an awful lot of pride involved there when the Southern California guy can possibly beat the guy from the Canadian in hockey. It's just something.
Hey, come on! I grew up. My dad loved hockey. He was from Ohio.
Let's be clear,
So
it was the
look,
refs.
wait.
14
Not-
penalties called on me in
Yeah.
a 60-minute game. Come on. I spent
Well,
half
you played dirty. That's not my fault.
Hey, I'm
Wow.
Canadian. I'm afraid that you're
Toe Blake hockey.
Well, not to make this all about hockey because Rick's going to fall asleep, but a little souvenir, like when my dad passed and I cleaned out all this stuff, I found this puck that he got, which says the Los Angeles Blades.
Oh,
It
wow.
was pre-Los Angeles Kings.
That's cool.
So I also have the, here we go. See, LA's a hockey town. The Los Angeles Sharks, not to be
that?
confused with
Yeah.
San Jose Sharks. That was WHA. That was,
WHA, yeah.
yeah, good stuff.
I can
Anyway.
respect
That is cool.
it was still a BS win on your part, but whatever.
Rematch anytime, dude. Come on down. Or I'll come up to the underground lair and
Before we
you
go
can
any
have-
further, sort of on the topic of favorite games, Lance Jennings has a question. I believe it's aimed at Rick.
oh wow.
Can you
That
compare
is
the two and give us a
You know-
reason why,
Whew.
the strengths and weaknesses of each one?
Oh boy.
this could take a while.
If it's which of these two are you going to play? I mean, you got to play Sharp Shot, right? I mean, the variety, the deliciousness.
I just
But-
really want to say that I think Lance has been wanting to ask you that question for a long time. I know Lance quite well, and it's one of the things that he brings up quite often. I wonder what one Rick actually likes the best.
But what you would do is you would play Sharp Shot, but you would have a second console just playing the carnival music on a loop.
Just in a loop.
Like just turn till your ears are bleeding.
I think Carnival actually it gets worse to play it. It shifts tonally in some places. It'll be like
Yeah, oh, it's awful.
You get something that's amazing. Yeah.
Certain notes, they're like, I don't know, they just got the filtering all wrong or something. It's just awful.
Oh my.
You know what's funny?
Private chat. Oh, yeah.
Rick, you brought up the Sears thing. As you were saying it, I do remember Brentwood Mall in Burnaby, which for the 3 people that are from Vancouver here, you'll know where Burnaby is. I actually remember going into Sears there, and the same thing. They had the setups. I actually think my friend stole an Atari game while we were there, and we would have been about. Not kidding. Yeah, it wasn't me, but I'm pretty sure I played Lookout. My buddy went behind the counter and stole an Atari game. Not a proud moment. Not really my moment, I suppose, but I guess I'm an accomplice. That's 40 years ago, so I think I'm good, right? But, yeah.
With
Maybe.
statute of limitation on that? I don't know.
That's what I figured. It's 25 years, right?
Any other questions on there? I think that's about it right now. Any other questions on there, Jeff? We got everything caught up pretty much.
Yeah, I think we are caught up.
Right on.
Can I tell Chris Dreher about my PDP 11? Is that okay?
Please do.
This is the part where Paul and I fall asleep during the
You
podcast.
guys take a nap. So yeah, this is actually a replica PDP 11. It's basically a fancy Raspberry Pi case. It's running a Raspberry Pi in there connected to a 3/4 scale PDP 11 front, PDP 11 simulation software, and it actually will behave as a PDP 11. All the switches work. You can change the addresses and the bits and all that crazy stuff. So it's on my network. I can log into it and do the PDP stuff if I want to.
You showed us that with the things and the buttons and the switches, and yeah.
There you go. Done. I'm done. People are like, we didn't come here to talk about PDP 11s and Commodore crap. Come on.
It's assless chaps and other items
Get
of
back to
interest
cheese.
to Rick.
Get back to cheese if you're sharp.
For sure. Yeah, JD and I are the type we'll get talking about actual hockey, not hockey games, and we'll be in a chat, any kind of chat, and all of a sudden you look over, and if we're not in the panel, we're typing all these comments back and forth about Ovechkin and Crosby and the best teams, and yeah, we have lots of great hockey chats in the most impromptu, completely out of topic. But so JD knows his hockey, that's for sure.
Well, speaking of hockey, I mean, obviously that was a high pick on my list. And
Sure,
I'm just curious if anybody in the chat who is an Intellivision aficionado, which are probably most of you, what is it about hockey on the Intellivision that you don't like? Because it seems to be not a well-liked sports game on the system. Just curious if anybody has some thoughts on that, but we can continue and wait for those.
While you guys are typing in, I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents worth there because, of course, back in the day in 1981 or whatever, I was 13 years old playing a lot of hockey. And, of course, it was my favorite game. I'm sure my brother-in-law went out and bought NHL hockey just because he knew I liked hockey because he didn't. And it was good. I mean, what else did you have to – what didn't I like about it? Well, the puck didn't leave the ice. You had a hard time scoring on the goaltender. The shots were all on the ice. But what game wasn't like that at that time? I mean, it was – ice hockey for the Nintendo before you started getting things off the ice. Even Blades of Steel, which tried to do other more realistic things, all of a sudden the puck went back to the ice, right? To make that work. And I don't know. Those are the things, but the technology basically just sort of
It wasn't
limited it a lot that time. The other thing that was bad about it, it was too damn long to play a game. Of all things, that was the worst thing about it.
I didn't find that. I get the criticisms. I mean, the goalies can completely suck, and they pass it out to your opponent in the slot. They set them up for a perfect shot, and getting knocked down and being just stuck on the ice for a minute. But it can be funny. It goes either way. But there were issues. But of course, Ken Smith, who did it, didn't know much about hockey. Nope. So I think, given that, I mean, there's a bit of that in our Sea Battle episode 8 where he talks about it, and it will be the next sports game we cover. So there will be more interviews as well.
I'm looking forward to that. Don't think for a second I'm saying I didn't like the game. I love the freaking game. It wasn't one of my top 10, but I did love it. I
gotcha.
But those are the limitations. I mean, those are the things that I didn't like about it. Did I love playing it? Sure, I love playing it. I could have played one. I don't remember ever playing 3 periods very often. I'd usually talk somebody into playing 1 period, which there was nobody else around, kids around. Usually it was an adult or something playing, so I was lucky to get 1 period in. And I wanted to, on that note as well, we'll get some more comments in the thing. Jeff will watch for those. But you and I talked about this already, Paul, before, but Chris and Rick, back in the day with so many 2-player games on the Intellivision, who was your main opponents? Who did you play against? Games like Sea Battle or the sports games. And I know, Rick, you didn't play a lot of sports games. I've heard you say that on the podcast before, okay? But there was Sea Battle and Armor Battle and a plethora of other games to play that you needed 2 players. Did you have somebody that, or did you play them like I did a lot of times? I played boxing against myself, right?
Rick played with himself a lot as a child, since as a teen, as a young adult, currently as we're speaking. There was enough kids in the neighborhood, so like I said, we were either at the Atari kids' house or my house or the ColecoVision kids' house. I had a couple cousins that were my age that I could play with. My sisters were 6 and 8 years younger than me, so they were not great, but I don't know that stopped me from thrashing them as well. I had enough kids that I could play the 2-player stuff with around, so that wasn't really an issue.
Right on.
Yeah.
Rick?
I had a younger brother, just a couple years younger than me. So we did play a lot of football and baseball. That was those are the 2 that we had, and pull out the playbook, and I definitely played those to where you'd understand the depth of the game. I would say, right? They were the games you played them.
Yes.
So, but we did have Sea Battle, and again, I played my brother usually on that. So I had the problem that Paul's talked about on the show, where kids would come over and play. They'd play this 2-player game, and you had to get them over the hump of the Intellivision controller, because I was the only neighborhood that had one. Yeah. And then a lot of these games had some depth to them, and they were just like, they wouldn't get, if it wasn't like jamming things against each other on the screen, they weren't really doing much. They didn't want to play it. So
right.
So Sea Battle, I wasn't going to get any kids in the neighborhood to actually play Sea Battle with any kind of skill or whatever. They weren't going to be able to do it. So, I'm pretty sure we had cousins come visit us at the holidays and stuff like that, and they're there staying with you for the whole weekend or whatever, right? So we would get into showing them how to play it and let them look at the manuals and stuff. So I'm sure we did some of that, but it quickly turned into we need more single player games kind of house because of those reasons. Yeah.
Because apparently most of the kids in your neighborhood were happy just taking 2 rocks and smashing them together. That was fun.
Get the rock here.
High IQ, average IQ in the neighborhood you lived in.
It was pretty low.
These are dumb.
There's a lot of lead in the water back then, Chris. Come on.
Particularly in the South.
You guys are all over Intellivision, I know. But Paul, you and I talked about this before. I know some of the ones you guys do, but what other game systems do you play? What other game systems do you collect for? Retro, new, whatever. Rick? Or doesn't matter, Paul?
Yeah, I think we may have talked about this. I mean, I started with the 2600 or the VCS as it was known then. Yeah. Of course, I have one now with a Harmony cart. I've got the ColecoVision, which is still my original one from '82 when I bought it.
Yeah.
Arcade games in the garage, 5200, Odyssey 2. Big fan of the Odyssey 2. Friend had it growing up. I didn't have it until the collecting days.
Yeah.
I had at one point at their time, I had the NES, I had a Genesis, had the Jaguar. I didn't keep any of those. I'm kind of thinking I might want to get back into them again, but I'm not really sure. I mean, there's some interesting stuff that's happened on the Jag. Yeah. It's an overrated system, but it has some fun games. I don't know. I don't have any specific ones I want to collect for. I do want to build up more 5200 stuff because I think that's a neat system. And because I was an Atari 8-bit computer guy, so it's essentially the same as that. But Rick's got
I don't even know.
shelves and shelves of all these bizarre retro systems, which is quite cool. I don't know that I have the space to do what he's doing.
Right on.
Yeah, the little video bumper I sent you that you've used has like my shelving thing in the background there. I've got a lot of consoles, and I try to find a console if I can get a multi-cart for it because I don't really have the budget or the space to collect for a lot of systems. So I will find a console, get the multi-cart for it, and I'll explore the library, that kind of thing. So I have I've got like but on top of that, I have picked up several homebrews for these other systems. So like I have probably half a dozen to a dozen homebrews for the Odyssey 2, which I really enjoy. I enjoy that system a good deal. I probably have another half dozen or more brews for the ColecoVision. I play a good number of ColecoVision titles as well. 2600, of course. I've got a bunch. But again, mainly the carts I'm getting for those systems are home brews because I get a multi-cart that has most of the library from back in the day for those systems. But yeah, some of the systems I have a an Arcadia 2000. What is it? Arcadia 2001, I think it's called. I got a Bally Astrocade. I've got a Channel F. Let's see what else is down there. That's kind of weird. Oh, I've got an APF MP1000. Which, by the way, I did collect. I couldn't find a multi-cart for the APF, so I was able to get all 13 of the cartridges for that system over some years.
We played that one when I was there, didn't we, Rick?
Yeah,
a few years ago. Yeah, that's right.
We still got a weird mine hunting game that you have to put numbers in on the keypad.
It was bizarre, but interesting though.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I love those older games, the quirkiness of them and stuff. So yeah, I have like a 7800, 5200. Those kind of like a good number of the systems that are pre-NES. I have a lot of those.
Okay, C-Mart. What's your main one that you're outside of the television? What's the main one that you're focusing on now, given the fact and all the cat of the bag that you have recently completed the Wii U collection?
I have a fairly large Intellivision collection.
I know you just finished your Wii U collection. Is there anything other than a television you're working on now? What would be your focus right now?
Yeah, I finished the Wii U during the pandemic. I mentioned this on the show, including all 14 versions of the system that was released in North America. Because why wouldn't you?
I thought you were going to say all 14 Let's Dance games that you're going to talk about.
I think it's about a dozen. I'm not actually sure what was more disturbing, buying those. I think I've also talked about this in the podcast, but or the two Barbie games.
Right.
There's a couple other things. Just like, I have to buy this.
Did you get the Hello Kitty Cruiser game?
Yeah, that was. It's not cheap either. I feel like I paid.
A couple more expensive ones, I believe.
Like $50-$60 for that, and I just wanted to shoot myself in the face. So I just finished Wii U. I'm actually collecting a lot of right now. I have a pretty decent sized Mattel handheld collection, complete in box, and some of the like Coleco head-to-head and Electronic Quarterback, and then like some of the NTEX ones like Stargate and Defender and things like that. Well, this won't come as a shock. Thanks, Paul. This won't come as a shock. There's variations of the Mattel handheld boxes. There's US ones and Canadian ones and European ones and Japanese ones. And so I've gone down that rabbit hole. And a couple nights ago, I ordered like 9 from a guy down in Oregon, different ones. So I'm focusing on that. Again, I've kind of collected those on and off during the years. Also, the Milton Bradley, the video game board games. So Pac-Man and Centipede and Pitfall and all that stuff. I've been rounding out that collection.
Is there a list of those somewhere? Or is it just sort of like find what you can find?
No, you can Google them. The Milton Bradley list, there's a Wikipedia page, I think, that sort of lists them. I looked long ago to be like, I still need whatever. And then on Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, I kind of wanted those because I kind of fit in what I was collecting. So I'm buying a bit of those lately. I've finished my Vectrex except for the $5,000 or $6,000 Boston, whatever the hell it is. There's a one-off, like a variation basically of some local business. I'm not buying that. I don't care that much. My Aquarius is almost done. I think I just need chess, which is annoying because it's a game I don't want, but I have to get it.
Yeah. I'll never play it, but I need to have it, right?
Yeah, Rick, right, we talked about this on the podcast too. Or no, actually, we talked about it in the thing we've been recording for episode 43.
Okay, preview. Sneak preview.
Yeah, Rick was at Korg's and what the hell's the other one?
Pittsburgh show, PGX.
The Pittsburgh one.
And Pittsburgh show.
Virtual VCS 2600 shopping for me. I'm trying to get the black box Sears ones. I've got probably a 400 Mr. Boston's Clean Sweep, Michael. That's right. I probably got close to 400 complete in box Atari games. So I have a decent sized collection there, but I wanted to do those black box Sears ones, and Rick picked me up a few and a couple other ones. I like this virtual shopping, Rick. He's just taking pictures. And I'm like, oh, dude, go back to that guy again and buy more games from minutes after you just bought some, because I just noticed something in the background of a picture you've taken.
Yeah.
And ColecoVision, I got a few left to get too.
Yep. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So I'm always looking for something, and I come across random things. The thing for me with the Intellivision is mostly like paperwork and catalogs and just odds and ends, just kind of funky things. I showed you some stuff last night with controllers. A lot of controllers and dust covers.
Yep.
Some weird third-party ones that you just never know exist. And someone's like, hey, look at this. Or you're looking through auctions like, oh, what the hell's that thing in the background? $180, I buy. And I got like 27 carts I don't need. But I got that thing. And the rest was just in the pile. And then I convinced Luke one day to take a bunch of my crap and sell it on his website. For a fee, of course. That's my goal.
Yeah, for lots of profit at this point.
I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it's sort of like I want to collect the physical boxes and the original stuff for the systems that I liked as a kid, mainly in television.
Yeah.
To a lesser degree, the 2600, I know that's an impossible mission to try to get all of those. But if I'm getting into some other system that I didn't have, I don't really necessarily want or need the boxes, as long as there's a multi-cart, like Rick said, so I can experience what the system had. But I don't know if that, obviously that doesn't affect you in any way, Chris, because once you get into a system, you just want everything.
You know what? The one exception for that might be, I have a 7800 collection that's pretty much done. I got one or two. I didn't collect the 5200 at all. It felt redundant, and I had no connection to it. Hey, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
What else? I'm trying to think. The Wii U seemed like the one, because Dylan had about 40, 50 of them already, and there's like 165. So it just sort of seemed like a no-brainer. I was looking for something to do during the pandemic, quite frankly. Yeah, we like the system. I think it's an underappreciated system. I think it's a system that in the next 2-3 years, I think the prices are going to go up. Because I got an N64 at PRGE maybe 3 years ago, and I started kind of looking at cart prices even then. I'm like, I don't want to pay $500 for a Mario Kart. Like, no. So that's one I wouldn't mind, one of those EverDrives, the cart for that, so I can play. I'm not sure that it's actually a great system, and I don't know if it's held up well. The games have they? Anyone
Never. I have no experience with the N64 really.
Very little for me.
Jeff, you, Pete?
The actual Nintendo developed ones hold up pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, like Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, all those are fantastic. Still,
but the price.
I've been playing Paper Mario, which is really good too on Nintendo 64.
Prices are just gone crazy for what I'm convinced are common games.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I know they're all the first party stuff, but I'm like, there's zillions of copies of all of those games.
Yep.
Why are people? And like I've seen, I'm on Facebook, one of the groups I'm on. Actually, Pete, it might have been one of the classic gaming homebrew, whatever the hell the Canadian site is for people to sell stuff.
Retro Game Bin Auctions or Retro's Great Canadian Video Game Auction Site or something.
But people like Pokemon, and people are asking like $1,000 for a game. I'm like, what the? I feel like there's a lot of these.
Yeah.
No, hard pass. I don't care.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. Right now, I find you go on there and you never know. You'll have people that will ask these outrageous prices for these games that are just nowhere near worth that. Then you'll see somebody who has it for like 1/20th of what this other person has. They're still not even selling it. So, but I guess it's like selling a newspaper for $1 million. You're never going to sell it. But if you only sold one, you'd be all set. I don't know.
You'd be set. Rick? What is that thing spinning behind you? What did your clock just do? Was that just when it changes time?
About every 20 seconds, Pac-Man and or the monsters go by.
Okay, that's what I saw. Sorry, it's
It's just you, Chris. Nothing's happening there.
Yeah.
it's just in my brain. Get the flashing. I did a lot of LSD as an 8-year-old. I don't know why my parents thought that was a good idea. I didn't even have ADD. They just started feeding me LSD. Yeah, I guess I'm just collecting odds and ends right now.
Right on. So, I
What
tend
about
to
you,
collect
Pete?
a little bit of everything, but I like to focus on Intellivision and Atari. But who hit
Maybe
the nail on the
Xbox?
head? That collecting Atari is hopeless. You're never going to have them all because there's too many obscure titles. So I go for the subsets, right? I love the black box Sears ones as well, but they've gone through the roof too.
Yeah, some of them are stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, the M Network ones, I only need 2.
Sorry?
M Network. I like the 17 M Network. I only need 2 of them. I need, of course, the most difficult ones to get are Star Strike and Match to the Universe. And the Activision ones, which there's only 44, which there's also a one, was it Accolade or Absolute or something that's considered maybe the 45th. But I'm down to about 9 of those, but those are very hard to get.
You know what? I
completely
actually
bought
need one.
as well.
I need one for that.
Okay.
Can you guess what it is?
F-14 Tomcat. That's what I'm thinking of.
No,
I think it's
got
called.
that. No. You know what it is? Beam Rider.
A Beam Rider for
2600.
yeah. I don't have Beam Rider for the 2600, just for the
What the
Intellivision.
hell? Yeah. Every time you're like, oh, Beam, oh, it's Intellivision. Oh, it's 5200. That's a hard game to find.
It is a very hard game to find for the 26. Yeah.
Well, Pete, you're also Xbox, like original Xbox collecting, right?
Yeah, and I started that about 3 years ago. With this, I am. There's always the argument: are you a gamer, or are you a collector? And I'm very much a collector, and I've always been a collector when I was a kid. I just love to play video games too. And I'd rather collect video games than anything else, frankly. But I picked Xbox because at the time I saw it as one of these systems that had an achievable library with enough games. The top price games at that time were all very reasonably. I say reasonably priced, but there's still there's not much more than $100 at that time. And now there's several more than that. But when I started, I says, those ones that are $50 now, I'm going to get them now because in 3 years, they're going to be 100, and they are. So now I still need 150 games or so, but they were $2 games that are now $8 games, right? And there's a few that are 40 or 50, but it's still very manageable. So it's a matter of finding them, not necessarily affording them. It's like trying to buy a spiker, right?
Yeah. What about modern stuff? I mean, I have a PlayStation 4, which I don't have very many games for it. I play it when I can with my son. I have my PlayStation 2, which I got back when in the early days of that platform. That's out in the garage arcade, and I really like that system. I mean, there's a ton of great games for it. I have a pretty good collection, but I'm not trying to collect them all. I just have games that I enjoy.
Yes,
but,
agreed, 100%. And that's the way I am with the modern day systems as well. Jeff has quite a Switch collection. Can you see your Switch collection from there, Jeff? Right over your shoulder.
Ooh, nice.
Wow, nice.
Over there.
Yeah.
That and the DS are my 2 that I have the most of by far.
Do you, Jeff, with the limited run and all that stuff, have you been buying those?
Some. I have several from Limited Run, and I've got some from was it Super Rare Games?
Yeah.
I think there's a.
I started out. Yeah, I started out buying them almost every one, and then I'm like, why am I buying these? I don't care. Like Dylan was playing most of them, some of them, then kind of none of them, and I'm like, eh. And now I'm buying the odd one, and that's about it.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not getting them all. There's like over 1,000 physical games with Switch. So that's that's out of the question. But I do get. I mean, that's my favorite, modern system. So that's the one I'm putting all my attention towards.
Carlos is asking about any of you collect Nintendo Game & Watches? I don't. I have the 2 new ones, which actually have a pickup video with the latest one in it coming out in the next day or two. Any of you guys collect the original Game & Watches from the 80s?
No, I never did.
No. Maybe if I had some back then, I would, but I didn't. So I don't really have the interest.
Did you guys know they existed at the time?
Mm-hmm. I remember seeing them.
I did.
Yeah.
I had one back then, and I don't know what happened to it, but I did have one.
that sort of leads into my next question, which actually I think that Chris sort of responded to it already. We were talking about history with Intellivision, but at what point, and I think you answered for Rick too in a way, when did you get back into Intellivision, like later on? Because I think that most of us probably played it as a kid, and then, through the years, the 15, 16, 17, sort of get away from it. And somewhere down the road, you realize that, hey, I really like that. So let's get back into it. And I think Chris said about 99 with eBay. But what about
for me,
you guys?
Well, I think I talked about that before a little bit. It's been in and out of my life for years. Like Rick got out of it because of the Commodore 64. I got out of it because I got an Atari 800 XL. But then I went back to it because it was fun. And then I got a ColecoVision and I said, wow, this is cool, but it's not quite what I remember. So then eventually you want to play the Intellivision again. And then in my 20s, of course, the INTV was discovered, INTV Corp, and got into it again and put it away, and then got into it again when eBay showed up. And yeah, it's just in and out, but it never left. It just always went back in the closet. I didn't sell it. I didn't get rid of it, unlike some of the other systems I had over the years. It's just I don't know, it just drew me in. It still does.
Similar to that thing sitting right over there, which I'm looking at, was my brother-in-law's system that I still remember him going to pick it up and us buying the games for it, and all the games that he bought are still right here, as I had 40 or 50 back then. Mm-hmm. How about you, Rick? What was like up through? When did you sort of get back into it heavy again? Like, because as a collector, enough to be in the podcast type thing.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say 2002, 2003 sometime is when I started. That's when it coincides with whenever I discovered Keith's site. Right?
Yes.
And I read that thing top to bottom, page after page. Just it was in my bookmark links and all that stuff. Yeah. And I saw these game names I never knew about. Like we stopped playing Intellivision. Like I say, probably-ish around 1982. Yeah. And based on the cartridges I had, like when I look back on the collection I had as a kid, I remember, I know we didn't have much past in terms of date, much past like say Burger Time's release. We certainly I didn't know anything about the INTV days and television production days. Didn't know about, I didn't know about Shark. I didn't know about Thin Ice. I didn't know about some of these games that are now. I didn't know about Sharp Shot.
And he came to love that more than anything.
So reading Keith's site and stuff, that kind of got me back into it. And of course, eBay's rolling along by then. And I started picking things up that I could. And it was, I'm one of those guys that it was early enough that you could get all 125 still. It wasn't, I think I paid, well, the story is I kind of got a spiker for free because somebody put up on eBay 2 spikers. They were the bagged releases. These were the ones before they put them out in boxes. Yep. 2 spikers up on eBay for a buy it now of $300. So that's the one I have. I have that release there. It was a buy it now of $300 for 2 of them. So I just I grabbed it and then turned around and listed one of them for $300 and it sold.
That's awesome.
But I don't. So my spiker, original spiker, is original bagged release, and I consider that properly, CIB bag.
Mm-hmm.
But I have it nestled comfortably inside of a reproduction box there on my shelf. So
that's it's legit. I mean, I bought games from INTV Corp, the actual store, when they were selling them in bags, and it sucked.
Yeah.
But Rick, I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast. Did you keep any of your childhood Intellivision stuff? Do you know what happened to it if you didn't?
So yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm pretty confident I don't have the original Intellivision system, but when we covered Astro Smash, I found my childhood manual because it had me and my brother and my cousins, all these high scores written in the back of it. If you remember, we took a shot of that and put it up on the website. That's the only one I know for sure connects back to my childhood. I don't know how I got that Astro Smash. Like I don't have a memory connecting it all the way back. I don't know what happened to my original system. I'm very confident I don't have my original system. But yeah, so like I say, somewhere along the line, I started. I'm sure I got a box from my parents or something at some point. Like, take your junk, and that's probably what happened. But I don't remember.
It's unlike you to not put the manual back in the box.
Well,
It's troubling.
Maybe that's the original. That might be my original.
It's making Chris
Etch-a-Sketch,
uncomfortable.
I understand why you take it out of the box to begin with. I'm unclear.
Oh, wait, yeah, we lost you that part.
Oh,
You can actually take the cartridges out, Chris, and you put them in that hole in the side of the system. You can actually put a game in there and turn on the
that's
console.
not what I've been putting in there.
See that switch that says on off power? It does something. Well, I still have my original console. It's not the one I use day to day, but it still works. I've got my original games. Never got rid of them. I did the Atari stuff and well, no, Coleco. I still have my original stuff too, but otherwise, yeah, Atari stuff now.
It's not on television. It was more special to me than any of the Atari for whatever reason. It just felt that way. But
Yeah.
So let's talk about getting the podcast rolling. In about, what was it, 2013 was the first episode. And I'm going to go to you, Rick, for this because Paul and I have talked about this before. But between the two of you, we'll let you lead the way. Tell us how the podcast came to be in 2013, how you guys met up, what you decided to do, who was involved, where you were, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. So sometime around then, I find Atari Age, and also Retro Gaming Roundup had forums, and so I posted a couple things, but I think it was Atari Age posted out, hey, let's have the 125 club, and they had these gold and silver and bronze levels. If you have this and you have that, and I was new to the site, and I'm just kind of poking around a little bit, and so they say if you have all of them in the box, you're this level or whatever. So I had a complete collection by then because I'd started back in 2003 or whatever. Yep. So I laid out all my boxes on the floor in my living room, took this aerial shot of it, and I went to Atari Age and said, I think, and nobody knows who I am. I'm just some weirdo, still a weirdo, but
I still feel that way.
An unknown weirdo. And I post this picture and I say, I think I'm in to the club, like, because I have, and people were like, whoa, yes, sure, I guess you're in. So and I'm just kind of lurking and reading stuff. I'm not overly active on social in general. That's just not my main thing. But then all of a sudden contacts me and says, hey, you, I know, I'm sorry, there was that article. I'm skipping a step. So that picture got picked up by somebody who was doing one of these old systems that just won't die kind of gaming articles, and they were talking about the Intellivision, and they were talking about people who collect and all that kind of crap. And he asked for permission to use my pictures, and he interviewed me a little bit. It wasn't anything wonderful or anything. It was just like, yeah, I like the system, blah blah blah. So then Paul, I guess, sees that article, and I had said one of the things I said in the article when they interviewed me was, I enjoy systems that have games that you don't find on other systems. Like I enjoy a system that's got a unique experience to it. And there's a lot of Intellivision that's unique to the Intellivision. And I kind of had that kind of thing going on in the article. And Paul's like, hey, you sound like you could talk about Intellivision. You want to talk about Intellivision? So he sent me this direct message, and I didn't see it for like a month, I think. And so then finally I see it. And Paul's like, you want to try this podcast thing? And I'm like, sure, that sounds good. I was thinking about doing something Intellivision-y as well. So yeah, that's kind of how that got started, was just kind of I'm like a nobody out in the weeds kind of going, I have a complete collection, and I like to talk about Intellivision. And meanwhile, Paul's over there going, who wants to talk Intellivision with me? But so eventually we got together and talked about how to do the show and stuff.
I thought Rick was just too good for me. He couldn't lower himself to come on and do a show with me. But he just wasn't very good at checking his PMs.
Yeah, right. I was ignoring him all that time. Right?
Well, yeah, and that's what, and we talked about before, I think, Pete, that's when Will joined the show, because he jumped in right away, wanted to participate. He's younger than our sort of group here, but he grew up with it as well. So And yeah, I had been doing things for other podcasts, music and little segments and things here and there, but I hadn't done it myself. But I had the background in recording and music and stuff. So I didn't know if it would work. And I think I told you before, I went and talked to Keith Robinson because I had a relationship with him and Emily, and asked if they were cool with it, if they were cool if I used the name, if they wanted to be involved, if they could help me find people to bring on the show, and it just kind of grew naturally, I think. Except for that when Chris showed up, then it sort of went unnatural and weird.
Then shit got real.
It went a little sideways.
In a good way, though.
So we'll get into Chris joining in just a second. But when you first started, what was the ultimate goal? What was the plan? What were you thinking of trying to achieve? Was it just to review, have an episode for every game, and each episode be about a game? Kind of
that was the plan. My initial reason for doing it is because Ferg started the Atari 2600 Game by Game podcast, and I heard about that. I was a big fan of Retro Gaming Roundup and listened to all their shows. I still listen to them. I'm just behind on some episodes, but I thought, wow, that's really kind of a stretch to do a podcast about one system, because nobody was really doing that I was aware of. It was more like, this is a retro gaming podcast. We talk about all the retro systems. So, and I heard some folks talk about Intellivision on other podcasts or on YouTube videos, and they always seem to get a lot wrong. Like this, no, that doesn't work like that. No, that's not why that's there. No, you're an idiot. You can't push the buttons and the disc at the same time. The game is fine. So I wanted to kind of right the wrongs, and I figured, well, no one else is doing that, so who better than me? Why not?
Yeah. Paul
Everyone's the hero of their own story, right, Paul?
Say again?
Everyone's the hero of their own story.
Yeah, but you're the real hero, Chris. We haven't gotten to that yet.
So, all right, let's talk about the hero then. What episode was it that you made your first appearance, hero?
I guess we talked on Atari Age lots of times, and then we met at CGE 2014.
Yeah. But you'd been listening to the show and commenting on the threads about it, and you were making.
Sort of back to Rick's comment about the website. Once Keith's website came up, I couldn't stop. Same thing as you. I read everything about it, found a bunch of games that I didn't know existed, et cetera, et cetera. And then when the guys started doing all the interviews, I loved hearing all the behind the scenes stuff. Because again, it was a system that I absolutely loved as a kid, and it was just I had all the nostalgia feels for it, and it was just cool. I thought to get taken, into that world. That was because that was the start of video gaming, right? Like they were literally creating the video game industry and making it up as they went along. Obviously, with folks at other places too, at Atari and Odyssey and wherever, but. I just love that stuff. So yeah, I'd been an active listener, and we'd been in contact quite a bit. And then we met up down at CGE, and then there was a bunch of dudes in my room, and
so many dudes.
Rick had a mic. We recorded. God, how long did we record for? It was.
We still haven't even heard all of those. Rick holds the masters on those, and we haven't heard a lot of that. It's probably not a lot you're missing, really.
Oh, you're really not. It's just a bunch of idiocy. There's probably 15 people in my room, and there was a fair amount of alcohol, and we recorded a bunch of stuff. Just a bunch. That
was the night before we did that. I don't know how many were actually in the room when we recorded.
Well, I get those nights mixed up sometimes.
Well, it's all a blur. It's a bunch of guys and booze and
a bunch of dudes in a room.
A lot of dudes. There's Cheez-Its.
Well, I mean, initially, Chris, you and I talked for ages about why don't we come on and do a segment about you and your collecting and all that, and it was like, yeah, we should do that. Yeah, that would be cool. And then it just didn't happen. We've still only done one of those segments, collecting with C-Mart.
Yeah, it's hard because of the whole audio thing. It's not like you can, do that.
Yeah, but I thought we did. What did we discuss? The catalogs, right? The original catalogs. So that's why we have the YouTube channel that we could utilize more. That Steve C is helping us with. So. Just an accompanying segment, I guess. But I don't know. I think people enjoy just hearing the discussion about the collection, and then it would be nice to have something to go along with it.
Yeah, no, we can. We will and should probably. Yeah, and then I guess we kept talking, like you said, and then was Rick? No, Rick was there. No, Will. Was it Will? Yeah, I think Will wasn't there, so we brought me on as a guest one time because Will wasn't able to record, I think. And I think it was Lance that asked this a while back about what our favorite episode was. For me, it was probably that one because it's led to a lot of things that we still talk about this many years later that I just kind of came up with on the spot. Like would Rick's assless jabs, his penny farthing, the Cheez-Its, the riding bike with the poles and the kids getting killed. And those are jokes we've continued on for years. And that all kind of came out of that first episode. I was genuinely in hysterics as these thoughts kept popping in my head, these images, and I could not say them. And this is when Paul started realizing he needed an edit button more than he previously had on the show. That had been said.
Yeah, the whole Korgs and the scaffolding and the sign and and that's when the outtake section started growing as well.
Yeah,
because there's and none of that stuff
are a half hour long. Your outtakes are a half hour long.
Well, you know what though, we don't really plan that stuff. Honestly, we just start talking and this stuff just happens for the most part. If I do a bit that's more produced, like I did with you, Pete, or whatever, I put a little bit of planning in it, but I also just kind of like to wing it and then edit it afterwards. But that episode just kind of flowed naturally with this weird humor that we sustained through the episode, and then it just became. I'll finish in a sec, Rick. But then I found it funny, and I've heard listeners comment on it that they like it. I found it kind of interesting to take because I'm just rolling the whole time we record. So I'll take stuff where we're planning these dumb things and where these ideas come together, and I'll throw them in the outtakes so people can get, oh, so that's how you did that, or that's why you did that. I don't always do it, but I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah. A lot of very little is planned, right?
Yeah, and I would say that's a source of some pain in my life because those two guys are 3 hours later than me. I'm 3 hours ahead, and so we start recording, and for reasons that have to do with personal lives and this and the other. Paul and Chris can't necessarily start in the middle of their afternoon. They have to start in their evening, which to me is late. And so we'll get together with these. We have a plan. I put together a planning doc, darn it. We have this whole thing set up, and we will waste at least an hour and a half during the recording session with just goofy nonsense. And I'm nearly passing out from it. And I'm like, can we just please get something in the can before 2 a.m.? I got to go to bed.
Is it your pass from that, or is it the brandy?
Well, I've started going with the brandy because it just doesn't matter. Like it just you can make all the plans you want, and it just doesn't matter.
Well, I gotta say, I was on there last night. Rick, you and I tested things out early. Well, early. It was about 10 o'clock your time, 11 o'clock mine. And then I got Chris on and Paul come on. I think it was about 1 a.m. my time before Paul was available. Yeah. So I ended up. That's the first time I've seen 2:15 a.m. in a long time. Up getting ready for tonight.
I've seen it too many times. Let me just say.
Sorry.
Well, the thing is, in the beginning, we used to try to record the whole show, all the segments in one go. And you would be up. There were times I think you were up till past 3, right?
Yeah. There were a couple of days I was up till 3:30 or 4, get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and then go to work. And I'm getting too old for that. I just can't do that.
Yeah.
Brother Mike. Yeah, like we got the whole country covered here. We have the Pacific. We don't wait for the mountain, but we got the Central, we got the Eastern, and we got the Papa Pete time zone here in Atlantic. And there's a lot of Atlantic in the chat today too, which is pretty cool. They're talking in there.
I see Mike Mullis just joined there as well.
Yeah, Brother Mike, good to see you, man.
We put Rick through a lot. We really do.
We do. He's a good sport.
And Pete, let me. You were asking about the purpose of the show, like what? Yeah. So I want to throw in there. To me, a big part of what I think the show is about, at least for me, is you said you're reviewing these games, and it's that deep dive, trying to recreate because like I got this collection, and I look at it and I'm like, I want to play these games. I want to enjoy these games. I don't want to just play it for 5 minutes, get bored, and move on to another one.
Sure.
I wanted to recreate that feeling that you got this game for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's the game you got. And no one's going to be too excited if you want to return it. So you have to, so you play it, whether you like it all that much or not, you're going to play it.
Very true.
And even the ones you do like, you're going to play the crap out of them, and you're going to discover things about the gameplay, the depth that's there that you won't find in 5 minutes. And so that to me is what I'm trying to, what I'm hoping we're doing with the show is giving the games that due, like really just digging into them and trying to find the nuance that's in that game. Because, there's stuff that I played and just about, Mazatron after 2 hours, that no one's going to know if they just put it in for 5 minutes and go, this is dumb, and they move on to the next one,
Right.
So
I love it.
That's to me what I have a big show about is that deep dive, just really live in this game.
Yeah. You're saying I'm trying to think of an example, but I know for a fact that there are things in games that I played hundreds of hours as a kid and have heard somebody else's point of view, somebody else's take on it, review of it, and I've learned something about the game that I never realized before.
Yeah.
And that's really neat,
We've had games that the experience I've had with the show anyway, we've had games where it's a game that I didn't play as a kid, and I'll put in an hour into the game and I'm not getting it. I'm like, this game, what the crap is going on?
Yeah.
I've heard Paul, Vectron's one for sure. Solar Sailor was one.
Space Spartans was one.
Space Spartans, that's the one I couldn't come up. And I'm playing them and I'm like, Paul, what's with this game? Like, why is it crappy? and Paul, hey, you need to do this, and you need to do this, or you need to do this. And it's something that if I'd had this as a kid, I would have discovered those things, right? Mm-hmm. So I could play those things. I learn that thing, and I dig into the game, and I start to enjoy it on a level that I know I wouldn't have as just a collector and casual game player. That to me is a big part of what I like about the show.
Chris, you look confused.
No, I was just looking at the screen of the comment section. Rick does a really good job too on that, right? I mean, we make fun of it, but he does an excellent job digging into this stuff. And then when you pair it with the greatest voice in recording history right now, I mean,
well, thank you so much.
No, it is fun. It is about the whole point of this thing is this is something we loved as kids, and now we're old people. I was going to say old fat guys, but Paul's not really fat like us. There's other things.
Thank you.
Sorry,
it's called eating healthy. You can't blame America. I'm American and I'm not fat. What happened?
Cheers.
It is shocking. It's a little bit weird. Drink your brandy. No, I mean, this is a system that we all love. And I think, on CG, jokes about 15 guys in my room notwithstanding, the PRGE, the last, was it 2019, I guess, before COVID hit, we had, I don't know, north of 30, close to 40 people, because we will usually get a large triple booth at the show, and it ends up being the place where everyone can come, throw all their crap, and just nerd out for a weekend. And we usually set up dinners Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I've talked about this on the podcast, or whatever the hell our thing is called. And yeah, we get to meet up with these guys who have this, love the system like we do, and nerd out over variations and collecting and trade and just have a blast, right? And that family, that group that we've built, these folks we've met on the interwebs and have met in real life, many of whom are in the stream here.
Yeah,
that's the point of it, right? This is something, we all have stressful lives, and this is something that's fun.
Yeah.
And for me, and again, I love all the behind the scenes stuff, I love all the interviews, but meeting this group of people that love the same thing I do has been awesome. And let me plug PRGE 2022 in October. I think it's mid-October. I don't know, they finalized the dates, mid-October 2022. Hopefully we can all travel. And I would say anyone that can go should go, and you will have a blast. It's a lot of fun. If you've never been to one of these,
community, right? It's a special community.
You're within the Intellivision community. I mean, it's a huge show, and there's tons of other stuff to look at. But
you're
into the Intellivision, we're a really friendly group, and there's a lot of fun to be had. So it's a great weekend.
I'm definitely planning to do it myself. We should have another booth. Haven't done that in a while.
We will. Rev will ask me, and then I'll pay for it, and then he'll forget to me at all. Well,
He pays you in tasteful nudes, right?
He just tasteful nudes, just a lot of tasteful. He actually messaged me while we were talking, like, dude, I'm on the show. Can you go watch? He hasn't shown up. I'm just. Anyway.
He's taking more tasteful nudes.
He probably is. It's I
tried to find my picture. We're talking about Vectron there. I tried to find my picture where I beat 99 levels of Vectron.
Yeah.
I sent it to Paul when I did it, but I can't find it. I tried to record it. I will be having a video in the near future, and I'll just leave it at that. And Paul knows my secret, and Michael Hayes knows my secret. But I will be going through 99 levels of Vectron. And
Michael, I need that version. I need that ROM because
I should.
You know how hard I had to work to capture sounds on Vectron. How hard it was to get to those advanced levels to capture sounds. Like I didn't get them all either.
So next on my list is back to basically what and Chris answered this already. Steve already answered it already. But Lance asked, what's your favorite episode? And Paul, I believe I asked you this before because we talked about the episodes, and I told you my favorite episode probably would have to be the Keith Robinson tribute episode and or the Tron Solar Sailor one that you put together after the fact, posthumously to honor Keith. But I can't recall right off what you said if you actually committed to a favorite episode of the 42.
Well, I would have different things that I like about different episodes.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think that the Solar Sailor, while it wasn't officially the Keith tribute episode, it was kind of the follow-up, but it had so much Keith, and I spent so much time digging through everything I'd recorded with him to put as many clips. I'd listen and go, oh, he said something about Solar Sailor. Let me isolate that and I'll use it in the episode. So that one was that was personally kind of satisfying to put that together because I felt like I gave Keith a voice after the fact.
Yes.
But then there's other episodes I like just because we did silly crap, like Chris's first episode, or the Christmas episode that Chris and I did when no one else was available. And the episode was about what are we going to do about this episode. Like that was the whole thing.
Now, thank you for the work you put into that Tron Solar Sailor. That had to have been excruciating to try to pull those clips. And just
it took a while, but
to know how difficult it is to find those needles in the haystack and put them all together into a coherent show like you did. I mean, thank you. It's friggin' amazing. Anyway, sorry.
It's hard to say. And the other thing is that when I do the shows, I spend so much time listening to this and editing and putting it together that when I release it, I give it a listen to make sure that it worked and it came through on our Libsyn hosting and stuff. But I'll occasionally go back and listen to different things or different bits, but I forget like what's in all the different episodes. I know it's in the timelines, but some people will email or message me about some particular thing. I'm like, what episode was that? When did we do that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I hope it's compelling. I hope people enjoy it. And then I know we get emails about people that have gone back and listened multiple times and to the whole collection. It's like, wow, you must have a huge commute or a lot of free time. Or you really like Rick's voice or something.
Yeah, that's the way it works. I listen to it when I'm mowing the lawn. I listen to it when I'm driving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When I'm driving somewhere, like usually long distance, right?
I mean, that's satisfying to hear that people enjoy the show, right? If we got nothing but hate mail all the time, we would probably still do the show and make it even more annoying, I guess.
Yeah, and all that can filter Rick, right?
Well, we just need feature more Rick, I guess.
There you go.
So, Rick, how about you? Favorite episode of all 42?
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. To me, I think what Paul does the heavy lifting on the production side, right? So he'll have a kind of a different relationship with the episode, and I tend to do. So what I think of when I think of these episodes and what I enjoyed about them is you're discovering something about a game that I didn't know before, or just the joy of researching it, digging in deep. So when I think about stuff that I really came away from the podcast enjoying, I think of the Mesotron episode,
right?
Because I spent a long time trying to map the levels
Right.
of those Masotron things, and I was able to discover on my own some things that we then got confirmed when we talked to the programmer. But was able to discover, okay, I now know how big these levels are. I never knew that as a kid, and that was kind of satisfying to dig into like that. And so I have memories of doing that, and I had to run it in an emulator because I needed to be able to pause and do all these kinds of things that and take screenshots is what I really needed it for, stuff like that. But it's going to sound silly, but I really enjoyed the Royal Dealer episode.
Okay.
Like I really, and this is it's going to sound silly, but I really felt like I brought some depth of card game knowledge to the table because we played a lot of cards as a kid growing up, and so I had some firsthand knowledge of the way these games work.
That episode too.
You totally did, and I totally crapped all over it because I didn't like the game.
Yeah, Paul. I guess all the episodes we've had where Paul's literally playing a different game.
I'm like, oh, sorry, were you talking about a game?
But
yeah.
And I thought that was funny. It was a fun bit, but I enjoyed playing Hearts against the computer because I played a lot of Hearts and recognizing the strategies that they put into the AI for the Hearts game because I know the game so well. I mean, that was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. But then other games that are classics that I'd never played and then would play for the podcast, like Shark and Space Spartans. I don't know. Just so to me, the enjoyment of these episodes is when I think back on how I dug into them and just really tried to plumb the depths of them. There's been several that have that experience for me.
I know that Paul's done most of the interviews, but did you do the interview with Russ Haft for Tron Masotron?
No, that was me. But Rick has done a few program interviews.
I don't remember which ones you've done. Which episodes have you done the interviews on for the program interviews? Which games?
Let's see.
You did for DZ for Christmas Carol.
Right. I was going to say, I remember interviewing DZ for Christmas Carol.
By the way, that's the only 4-letter word that ever snuck through in an episode. DZ.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. SHIT. I forgot to edit it.
I think I talked to Joe about.
Yeah, you had Josie was.
Yeah, about Space Patrol. Space Patrol. Did we do that?
Yeah,
we did. We did Space Patrol, right?
Yeah.
So I remember talking to him about that one. I remember enjoying that.
Well, I gotta say, Rick really comes prepared for the episodes, especially when we're doing a game review. He lays out all the info. He does the breakdown of the game. He's got it all researched, and generally I'll cover the programmer interview if there is one.
Gotcha.
And I felt bad after the Royal Dealer episode because I was kind of a jerk, but it came across funny in the end, right? But it was like I was like, why are you going to play a card game when you can play with real cards? And it's like your video games are supposed to be about experiencing something you can't experience in real life. I just never played it. I like card games, but I was not into it. But you did a thorough job of researching it, and I kind of crapped all over it. But it was fun.
I think I've told Paul this before. It didn't bother me in the least. I thought it was funny that
some listeners think that it did. We get a lot of that. Why are you so mean to Rick?
We have had some emails like, Rick, are you okay? Is it going to be
a lot of them, and understandably so. Really,
I think that's only like ramped up a little bit in the last 20 episodes.
Well, perhaps.
It's actually not fair. Almost, Rick is.
Oh yeah, Chris Dreyer. You interviewed him about Tutor Vision.
Yes. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, right on. Okay, I remember that one too. Talk about the Tutor Vision and the fact that some of the 3s and Super Pros are actual Tutor Visions. How many of those have been found now?
I think it was around 8 or 10.
Am I off kilter or am I right?
I think it's about 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, not a lot.
They found cards for those?
No, just the fact that they are.
They existed. Yeah, I've seen that list. Yeah, okay.
Tutor Pros or whatever we're calling them.
Gotcha.
And Rev is here, unfortunately. That's too bad. There you go.
I don't know, Rev. I was hoping to get you on here sometime with Luke for you you and Luke to join me sometime. Maybe in the near future, we'll get on here and talk about
You know what?
some
I
of
would
your
go on
releases,
that.
some of the work you're doing with Intelligent Vision. But
I would go on
glad
that.
you're here anyway, Rev. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, no, I with Luke and Rev, I jump on for that one.
There you go. That would be.
I got to
a perfect
catch up
one
on some
there.
homebrews, Rev. I'll be in touch.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
50.
Okay, so
Thanks, buddy.
you guys are at 42 now. What's the last? This is a quick question, Paul. What's the last game that you did? The last episode that
Gosh.
actually was a game.
That is a good question.
Locomotion. Locomotion.
Yeah. Locomotion Happy Trails.
Okay.
I was gonna say.
I'm trying to think when that was. That
Well, I
was
just remember the Daryl Shaw interview, and I just was
May 6th of
May
2020.
May 2020, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I can listen to her talk all day.
Come on, 2 games, 2 programmer interviews. That took a lot out of me. I needed some time to.
So
There's more coming.
Like, the goals have changed. I asked you earlier about the goals when you started, and the goals have changed. I'm sure when Chris came on, they had changed somewhat. But even now, that's Chris. You've been there for 3, 4, 5 years. 5 years.
I think
What was the date of your first episode?
3 years ago.
Anyway, even in that amount of time, I mean, the goals have sort of changed. So, what's the plans for going forward?
Doing more episodes.
More episodes, yeah.
Well, I actually we have most of the stuff recorded for 43, which I was trying to get done before the end of the year so I could do 3 months in a row of a release. I don't know if that's going to happen, but if it doesn't, it will be very early January when it does. And we've got our next game announced in that episode. I don't know if we should do a little exclusive for Pete here. No one said Atlantis, Chris. No.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and there's also a programmer interview for Atlantis, by the way. So.
And can I just put my comment in here that I've been saying all along that Missile Command is no substitute for Atlantis. Anyway, forget about that.
Was that a slam on Rev for his Missile Command release?
No, not even remotely. But anyway, no, that's awesome. So you're still going to go. You're still going to try to do the games. You're still going to carry forward. But are you looking at now we're not doing a game every show, every other show. We're going to fill it in with this.
It's hard to say because we've done that in the past where we'll have an episode after a while and we'll go, okay, well, here's what we're going to do now. We decided that we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then, 6 months passes and we're like, we decided we're going to do this now and not try to do that. And so I have some other interviews already done. I mentioned this in 43, which is obviously not out yet, that I've been talking to the guys who are doing the Intellivision book. And I've gotten a huge contact list from them, not just programmers, a bunch of folks in television management, marketing, everything. And I'm going to try 2022 to just get a whole bunch of interviews in the can. Whether or not I use them right away is a different thing, but I just want to try to interview as many folks as I can in 22.
Understood.
And I would like to have, if it's not a programmer, I'd like to try to do at least one interview per episode, no matter what the episode is.
No, that's good. Do you have a name offhand that, I'm going to go to a different question afterwards, but do you have a name offhand that you would really like to get hold of now, could get a hold of now, and get an interview done that you haven't to this point been able to do, but still could possibly do?
Yeah, there's a number of them, actually. There's a guy...
I haven't said no, but you just haven't talked to yet.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy named Dave James, who was the in-house Mattel artist. He created the Running Man, the animation, the original graphics for the games, sending those over to APH to program them. Yeah. I have a contact with him. I tried to do something with him prior to COVID happening, and I haven't gotten back to him yet.
Right.
I could also get Terry Valesky on. Talk about INTV. I have a contact, so...
Oh, yeah, right on.
There's a few others. I'll keep them under my hat for now.
Sure.
Just put them right back here. But yeah, think more than just programmer, because Keith was awesome for hooking me up with people, but he primarily knew the programmers.
Yes.
And not the folks in marketing and all those other departments. Yeah. So
Do you have a programmer or another person involved that you really wish you had have had the opportunity to do an interview with, but just for probably because of passing, you'll never have the opportunity? Is like I'll call it a regret, but it's kind of a question. But of all the ones who were passed on, who do you wish you could have talked to?
Chandler.
The janitor? Is that what you said? Chandler. Yeah, Dave Chandler would have been nice.
Yeah.
And also, gosh, why am I forgetting the guy's name? He's the one who did the stuff early on at APH. He did the crowd sound effect. He did...
Hal?
Yeah, Hal Finney. Yeah.
Hal Finney. Yeah.
Would love to talk to him about that.
There was that that artist guy, Jer or something.
Yeah. Gerald something. Yeah. He did all the box artwork, the early stuff for Mattel.
Gotcha.
He passed a long time ago, but that would have been nice to talk to him, of course.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of sad, but I mean that's just the way things go. But it would have been like Hal Finney would have been a very interesting person. Would be an absolute genius.
I'd love to get another interview with Tom Lowry. AD&D, both games, Sub Hunt, Dreadnought Factor. I had him on the show twice. I've not been able to find him since. I've reached out many times.
Oh, really?
I don't know what's going on, what the status is, but love to have him back on the show.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, of course, Keith Robinson would be great if he's still around. Have a whole lot more to talk to him about, but we got some good content.
It's sort of strange because, like, just to let you know, like when I'm listening to that to the podcast, and of course you're listening to it in the background. Sometimes I put it on at work; it's on in the background. I'm just working away listening to it, and it's going on. I hate doing that though because I tend not to actually catch things. I miss things. But the second Keith Robinson comes on in any episode and talks, it's like he automatically grabs my attention, and I want to hear what he has to say because the stories he's told is just, I don't know. He was just absolutely fantastic to listen to and entertaining as hell. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He was such a great storyteller, right? And he was just so engaging. I think one of the questions you were going to ask us at some point was, who we met. For me, it was Keith. Met a couple times, and he was just such an engaging individual, right? And Keith was a salesman, right? Keith was a showman. Like that was his role and goal, and he kept the brand alive, and we all owe him a lot for that. For sure. It was just a lot of fun to listen to the guy, right? Some people can command a room, and some people are just great storytellers and draw you in, and Keith was certainly one of those people.
I'm just keep talking. I can hear you. I'm just letting my dog out of the room.
We're used to it with Paul, actually.
It's right.
Well, yeah, I inherited the dog after my dad passed. But the dog really messed up 42 more than 41. Or was it? No, 41 was more. It's just a squeak because she had a cone on her head. She was not happy.
Put the cone on.
Not just that, though. I think for Rick and I, every time she would fart and you would almost throw up.
That was a problem. And she's actually doing that tonight, too. She's right on cue. She's about 6 feet from me right now on the floor.
Nice. Ralphie was laying right in front of me here the whole show so far, but I guess he just had enough. It gets warm in here when I close the door and have all the lights on and such. So chat, now's the time. If you have any questions for any of the Intellivisionaries, or
what are people in the chat? They have favorite episodes? Do they have things they don't like? Things they wish we would do that we don't, or vice versa?
Lance asked a good question though. Put it back up. How do we pick the game to spotlight one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Rick has a bucket system.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's pretty nerdy. So when we started the show, I thought to myself, if you start off with a bang and you do all your favorites, you'll have 2 years of doing these great episodes of these great games, and then you'll get to the back half of the catalog, which maybe isn't as great, but you've selected out all the good ones up front. And then you're just going to have I got to do this game now. So I decided we needed a way to make sure that we were mixing it up a little bit and not shoving all the games we don't want to do to the back end of the death of the podcast, right? So I decided a fair way or a reasonable way to chunk them all up was by time of release. So I have a spreadsheet where I chunk the 81 to 83 releases, or 79 to 81 releases, 82 releases, the 83 releases, and so on. And I break it out into these buckets. And we just try to make sure we're pulling from the different buckets more or less evenly so that we're hitting across the years. And that kind of forces us to do games like Royal Dealer, when we would probably never pick that, while hockey is still on the list, or something like that. So we try to keep that even and try to pull stuff. We're not real great at it. I mean, but that's the intent, is to make sure we're hitting an older game. Let's do a homebrew. Let's do something that was kind of in INTV days. Let's do something that was from '83. That kind of thing.
I do the same thing with the 125. I said I don't want to do all my favorite games right off the get-go. I want to. That's why I did Royal Dealer number 3. It ended up being a game I really enjoyed, even though I hadn't played it very much. But you made a mention. Let's do a homebrew, and where did that one just go? Interview some of the great new programmers like Carlos and Oscar. Now, I know that you've had write-in interviews with Oscar, correct?
Yeah, we had an interview with Oscar. So English isn't his primary language. He didn't want to just come on and live hunt for his English, whatever.
Exactly. Very
so we did an email thing. I think we had Willie Culver read his.
You had Will Culver. Yes. Read that. That was fantastic. What a great idea, guys.
Yeah, that was fun. We could definitely do that. Obviously we're not trying to put any programmer into a weird spot, right? So if we can do it in a way that is palatable for them, that's what we want to do.
Yeah. And Carlos Madruga has released lots of great games. So on that note, though, are you looking maybe at leaning towards doing more homebrews? You've done homebrews right from the get-go, right?
Yeah, we have
Christmas Carol, Space Raid, different ones.
I think the problem with the homebrews is when you at 2013 and 2014, there were 20-ish, maybe 30. I don't remember. There weren't that. There's over 90 now. They have just accelerated insanely lately. So if you look at the distribution graph thingy that I make about the titles, we're way underdoing the homebrews right now, just because they just keep coming out. It's like we can't keep reviewing them in proportion with the rest of them. So
I understand what you're saying. They've surpassed the 125 and they're flying way above it, right?
We're not quite at the tip over point of 125 homebrews complete in box yet, but definitely if you look at all the
really
ROM releases, we're really close. We're right on the cusp. But it's something we need to do more of in terms of the homebrews to be fair to the others. But there's also a sense in which it feels like the Intellivision podcast might need to lean a little more heavily into the 125 just to feel like the system is the system. I don't want to short shrift any of the homebrews, but I don't know. It's a tough one to figure out.
It's almost like you need a second show, because I want to feature those because it's super cool, the community and what's going on. But at the same time, a primary motivator of doing the show is to document the history of it. And that's new history that's happening. But at the same time, I think my original goal was to interview programmers of the original games and cover them. So there's only so much time in the day or the week, and how do we put it together? And I can't devote all of my free time to doing the show, as much fun as that may be. So I don't know. Rick's going to do a side show. I think, just do homebrew interviews or homebrew reviews, nothing but. Right? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. There's so much stuff to cover. I guess we just keep going until we can't do it anymore.
I think one of the things that we did that sort of works is Rick has done sort of these 10 or 15 minute mini deep dives on some of the homebrews. I think that's one way that we can sort of highlight some of the ones that are coming out without doing a full interview and et cetera, et cetera. I like the idea of that, trying to highlight for the community some of these games that are out there. The problem with a lot of them, though, is they come out, there's a launch window of X months, and then they're done. Right, because as much as I think folks, why aren't these always available? Well, there's carrying costs, guys. These things cost a lot of money to put out, and the people that are putting them out aren't necessarily doing this as their primary source of income, and there's a lot of capital up front. So I think folks at times will be like, oh, they should have these forever available. It's not as simple as that when you're talking about the boxes, et cetera, which, speaks to maybe the need for more ROMs in the future at reasonable prices, which I think has been happening the last number of months. And we talk a bit about that on the next episode. But yeah, no, I think we have 125 and then, a little, here's another homebrew you might be interested in. That's what we think is really cool.
That's a real tension that I feel as well. It's like you want to bring to the community, hey, there's super cool new games being made. Have you heard about this one? Have you heard about this one? But the realities of the podcast production and games themselves are a lot of times by the time that the episode is out, you can't get that game anymore. Like they're closed on you. So it feels a little weird. It feels a little weird to hype it and say, hey, go get this game that you can't get when you listen to this episode. Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing with the spotlights that I'm trying to do. It's like at the end of the day, I'm just going to talk about the games because most of them. How do you feel about this though? Most of them are starting to become available just in ROM format for a lower price. Mm-hmm. So they are still available. They just you can't get that physical copy anymore without the big eBay auction, right?
Yeah, well, as we're doing this live tonight, I mean, what was it? Yesterday, 2 days ago, when Rev put up that Atari Age poll about what do you guys think about homebrews and ROMs and complete in box and all that kind of stuff, and it was just interesting seeing some of the numbers come through. And of course, this is self-selecting. Only Atari Age members. It's only Atari Age members that are going to look in the Intellivision forum, and it's only the Atari Age members that look in Intellivision forums that care to do a poll. So it's winnowing down the kind of people that are going to respond to this thing. But the numbers just in that polling are showing that there's a lot of people who want ROMs, but then I think Dave Harley chimed in and said, I'm only selling under 50. When I put a ROM out there, so there's some interesting things going on there in the market. Like if you put it out there, make it available, will people even buy it? I don't know. It's weird.
Recently, I know that on the Intellivision Collector site, they've started selling some of the ROMs from Carlos's games and other games as well. I really don't know what's going on with it. It's kind of that though. There isn't as much up front for a cost, so I guess if you sell some, you're doing good. But you still want to see enough purchase. Like you don't want to see the sharing. That's the thing I always sort of preach a little bit on my shows as well. Is I love the ability. If I want a physical copy, I have no issue spending an extra $10 for the ROM to put it on my flashback and stuff. And the bottom line is this: these guys aren't going to make games if everybody starts giving away the ROMs to everybody and all the friends, and they don't get their $10. So for $10 friggin' dollars. Give them the $10 and don't share it, Anyway, my little diatribe.
We actually talk about that a little bit in the next episode that's coming out hopefully shortly.
Very soon.
Very soon. Well, do we have any other questions in there, Jeff, that I'm missing?
Here's some from Lance. He wants some Televania.
Rev's going to make copies of that. Rev's in the chat right now. He could probably answer.
Rev is in the chat, yeah. And Heli, what about Heli? That came out about the same time as Intellivision, and I did get Intellivision. I haven't got Heli yet. Physical. I've got the ROM. I bought the ROM, but
there. Morvania. What about Heli?
Early 22, Morvania. I think that's probably that may be one of the best-selling homebrews, physical releases that have been out there, is it not? What do you think?
Certainly.
What would be some of the top?
In recent times, it's one of the better selling ones. Rev can confirm that, but yeah, it's sold really well. He keeps. We've talked about this. We'll talk about it in the upcoming episode. There's just been this horrible shortage for PCBs this year, so it's hard to get bloody carts made.
Yeah.
And
top sellers, top homebrew sellers. For top homebrew sellers, we're talking stuff like D2K Arcade or something, right? Yeah,
D2K Arcade is the one by far. But there was a number of earlier ones that got in that 253 range as well. I don't know if Rev's going to share the number, but it is a really good number on Vania. The best I think we've seen in a while. I think you can count on 100 copies, probably 150. For games like that, maybe 200 plus. It's still a small community ultimately, right? These are 50 or 60.
Really, yeah.
Whatever.
That always sort of gets to me when people start complaining, they're too much money. No, they're not. $60, $70 is not too much money when you're producing something of that quality, getting a game programmed, making manuals, boxes, overlays, cartridges, and selling them for $60, $70. That's pretty damn cheap, actually, for the amount that you're going to be able to sell and produce. We're not talking about friggin' Space Battle that was made by Mattel in a factory, and you know what I'm saying. Anyway,
yeah, the numbers
totally.
The numbers really play into the cost and stuff. So
sure. I think it's
even more so than like when I was doing all the flashback adapter cables, which I'm starting again, allegedly. I have all the supplies.
That's the question I have in the chat for you.
Yeah, there was Luke was asking about a dual action controller. That's, for those who don't know, that's not some weird thing that Rev does in his basement. It's combining two Intellivision controllers so you can use the disc and the keypad at the same time for Tron Deadly Discs, AD&D, Night Stalker. And I made those when the flashback controllers came out because I got an early pre-release version from Keith. He lent me the controllers so I could take them home and take them apart and see what made them tick. And At Games had just gotten the wiring wrong. But it's a whole process. I've got a video on the YouTube channel that shows what's involved, and it's a lot of work. It's a couple hours time to make one of those things. Plus, you need two flashback controllers to do it. Right. I think the total count of those in the world now is probably 20 or 21, including mine. So it's a pretty rare item. It's CIB too.
How many does Chris have? I thought he has either 18.
He only has one. One.
Okay.
I would like to make them again. I don't have spare flashback controllers because I was charging, I think at the time I was charging like $100 if I had to supply the flashback controllers and like $70 if you sent them to me. And that's not doable now. I don't know. And I mean, Chris, probably, you don't even have a bunch of flashbacks. I know you didn't go crazy with that, but.
No, I actually only have one. It was the one that Keith and Warhol autographed, and that's the only one I ever got.
Slip cover?
Yeah.
Do you have a slip cover?
Yeah. They're a cool item. They're very, very niche. Like, I don't know how many people really care about them, but they work well for those games if you're interested in playing it. But Chris probably has never taken it out of the package.
I have a eBay search. I have an eBay search for Intelligent flashbacks because if they drop, if I find an eBay auction that's got it that somebody doesn't know the value of it and they list it for $20, buy it now or something crazy like that, I jump on it because I want the controllers. I want to have spare controllers moving forward. And I mean, they're selling for $60, $70 on eBay. The flashbacks, and I mean, I can't pay $35 for a controller. That's just too much. So.
Well, a modern day controller to play a game, which yes, it's more technologically advanced for sure, but you're paying $80, $90 here for a controller for a PS5, PS4. Xbox.
Yeah. I think the idea though for Paul to make one, for example, you go on eBay, you get yourself a flashback, run your baby $60. Paul's got to charge you another 50 plus, maybe 70 plus for his time and engineering effort and all that crap. It starts to become untenable.
Yeah, no, I understand. There you go, spare set of flashback controllers on the way down to you, Paul.
I wonder if Luke stole those from mine. I let him out a couple times.
I'm going to have to talk to you offline, Luke, and then we can make some arrangement where I can get a few games from you for the labor instead of cash.
Rev says the ROM sales are pretty low. I know I bought one last week. I go on every once in a while, pick up a new one, especially I want to go do one for the show. Get a few ahead. I really enjoy the ROM sales like that, but I mean, yeah, I guess that's the nature of the beast. It's just going to be low. After Rev comes on for his interview with Rev and Chris and Luke and I and Jeff, the ROM sales will probably go through the roof. That's what I think. Don't you think so?
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
Why not? Anyway, guys, that's probably about it for tonight. That was great. What a fantastic chat. Still got 27 people in here. Thank you to everybody in the chat for all your questions, all your participation, and thank you to Jeff, of course, as always, for watching the
Thanks
chat.
for having me, Pete.
And guys, I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. It was great to see the Intellivisionaries all together on live and in person, I guess, all at one time. We look forward to the next shows coming out. And that's about it. Oh, actually, let's take a look at some of the things that how much of a show and tell do you have for us there, C-Mart?
They did bring a few items we could show.
Oh, guess what? I think the guys. Do you want to see it, chat?
I have a bunch of boxes from recent homebrews if people want to see that.
Oh, pretty nice. All right, let's bring back and forth here. We'll go solo layout here. Tell us about that one.
This is Hank still on here? I think Hank's still here.
I think Hank's around. I think he's still
I got
there.
this from Hank. This is a DigiPlay pinball, and I think we've only ever found 2 or 3 of these ever. It shows up differently on my one screen versus the other. Anyways, these are ridiculous to find. So this is the rarest of all the DigiPlay games. If you ever come across one of these, buy it instantly if it's under $1,000. But that's it's in. There's the back
Portuguese.
of it. Yeah, they're it's a near impossible game to find. It looked like you could do DigiPlay without pinball, but we'd seen it in catalogs, and we're like, I guess it doesn't exist. And then it turns out it does. There's only a couple. Here's another. Speaking of Brazilian things, if ever you see these are Shock Vision. I'm trying to mix things the wrong bloody way. These are Shock. This is another Brazilian pirate. So DigiPlay was fairly legit. Shock Vision less so. They're all the same box. They have a label on the top if you can find boxed ones, and then inside this funky little box, you get a cart that looks like that. And you had to get this adapter that goes between your Intellivision and the cart to get it to work. And then the instruction manual, which I'm not going to pull out because they're super fragile. It's this piece of paper that's sitting inside there.
Wow.
They are very, very hard to get. There's a guy down in Brazil I've bought a bunch from a couple times. I've got maybe 50 or 60 of these things, and I suspect that might be the most of them in the world at this point. Let's show a couple other cool. I showed it was funny that Rip brought this up earlier, the spiker in a bag. I felt like I was pulling a Papa Pete there. I was doing a bit of a flex there, showing my sealed in-bag spiker.
And your wrist muscles.
Yeah, and my wrist muscle. I don't know that. Did Luke show one of these when he was on?
May have. I think he did.
That's a French-Canadian Super Cobra. I think Luke might have shown. Mine's nicer looking than his, and I have 3 of them, so screw him. Sticking in the Parker Brothers realm, here's a game we wish had come out. This is the empty box for it. Revenge of the Jedi Game 1. And then there's Revenge of the Jedi Game 2, although it's got shrink wrap on it for whatever reason. These were obviously displays for games that they'd hoped would come out and never did, which is too bad. I don't think, no, Mike's not on here. Demo carts are cool. German demo carts in this funky black box, which is, that's neat and stuff. But the best and weirdest part of this is this right here, which I don't think most people will ever see. So I don't know why this looks like this, but this is the German demo cart, and it is awesome. It's one of my favorite things.
Oh, wow.
That
is bizarre.
Very, very hard to find. I showed this to Pete and Paul last night. These are Interface, which was a local Vancouver company. These were, we'll do the other way around. There's Blockade Runner. So these were prototypes of the artwork's almost the same that came out ultimately for the Interface Blockade Runner, but just in this crazy box. The cart's a bit weird too. But this one's This looks like the world. This looks like Plague Game of Plagues.
But you know what, Chris? After you showed me that, I remembered, and I have to dig out the magazine, the old electronic games and stuff. I think that was the ad. They used that image in their ads, right?
Because I think that was the early. This was what they initially thought, and then someone at some point was giving them the feedback. Hey, that box is awful. Don't do that. Here's an Intelli game, another Brazilian pirate game. These are a series of very colorful games. Sometimes they have 2 games on them. And this is what the box, if we're going to call it, looks like. It's more of a sleeve. Wow. These things are incredibly rare, very hard to find.
Please tell me at the bottom of this Brazilian pile is not your thong collection.
No, that's in a separate.
Thank God.
That's a whole room in my house. Here's a shell for a Tutor Vision game. There's no game in it. There's only like 2 or 3 of these have been found with games in them. Not that many of these have been found. Anyways, there's a Tutor Vision shell, which is kind of funky. It's basically a Mattel part otherwise.
Nice.
That little there's so much crap here. I'll show you a couple bigger things and we'll call it a day. Chris Dreyer Lave just did a video on this. I didn't bring my keyboard component upstairs. This is really heavy, but this is the keyboard component printer. And there's only been 2 or 3 of these found to date, which is pretty cool. It's just a rebadged, I can't remember what the hell the thing is called. Blanking out of the name. I'm not reading it on the back. Anyways, these are unbelievably rare. If you ever see one of these and it has Mattel on it, buy it. And some final things, just because I'm gonna flex a bit today. There's one of my. I'll see this because it's sealed. It's all shiny and you can't see it. There's a sealed video plexer.
There you go.
The Atari one's fairly easy to find, but the Intellivision ones are not. So see one of those, buy them instantly. And then one of the crown jewels of the collection is this. This is the Arabic system, which is pretty neat. You can see, or can you see is it Akiko?
Yep.
On the box there.
Yeah, we can.
You get some good Arabic there.
So that was the INTV era, though. So was there one from Mattel? Yeah, was there one from Mattel though?
No, this is
Arabic.
I don't know. This is the only one we found today. You can see the Arabic.
Yeah, it's awesome though.
I'm not going to take it out. We've only seen, I think, maybe 3 or 4 of these, two or 3 boxed and 1 loose. And I got a bunch of other crap. If you ever see stuff like this, these are Activision prototypes. Buy these. Sometimes they look like that. They made them for Atari and Coleco as well. There's 7 of them in total. I've got a variant on one. I don't know. I could do this all day. I have a show where I do that. There's a iMagic Safe Cracker one. We'll do one last one there.
You mean Imagic is what you meant to say.
Did I just say? Oh God.
You did. You're an idiot. Sorry.
Too many bloody iPhone. I'm looking at an iPhone or an iPad as I do this. Anyways, there's a Pro for that, and there's a Parker one. I got a whole bunch of things. There's lots of things we could do some other day.
Wow.
There's a few of my favorite things. AlphaCom Spectre 40. I knew it had a 40 in it. Thanks, Chris. Anyways, that's a sampling of some of the cool things.
Take a look at some of those boxes, the homebrew boxes.
Yeah, I just have a stack of some of the recent homebrew boxes here. Not as rare and as flashy and whatever another, but if you're wondering the kind of stuff that's out there, here's the Wizard of War box. Love me some Wizard of War. That's a fun one for sure.
Dr. Ports.
There's a story about that game with you, Rick. We've never told
that story.
More Dr. Ports.
Here's the Clacks.
Still waiting on more of those.
Yeah, I got that one recently. Both of those actually.
This is the box for Sorrow of Gahlanthur.
That's awesome.
Really cool artwork on this stuff. I'm trying to angle it so you don't get the glare. So yeah, I've been playing that game. That was a ROM release, but they put out boxes because they could. Here's Gorf. Yeah, there we go.
That's a good looking box.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, they did a good job with that for sure. Death Race. I have some history with Death Race that we talked about recently on the show, so we can. That's coming out in Ep 43. Here's Goon Enough. Again, I'm trying to get so you can actually see it without the glare. And then Electronite started putting out boxes. These are cart releases, but they started putting boxes out for some of the cart only. So there's Ninja Odyssey, Anthropomorphic Force. That is wild. That mouth sandworm thing. I have TNT Cowboy here. Where'd he go? Oh yeah, here he is. Here's TNT Cowboys box. Showing some explosions and some cowboys and stuff like that. For all the bronies in the audience,
That would be Rev and you, I think.
Unlucky Pony. He's had adventures. Super Mountain is a good upgrade to King of the Mountain. I was playing that a little bit on the live stream that I was doing. Here's X-Ray with Diligas. It's hard to get it right because it is a black and white picture there. It's not just the color washing out. It's an X-ray of the television console. I think these boxes. This is an older release, but they started putting boxes out for Zombie Madness.
Okay. Yep.
And I think I got one more here. Kniefelter. So just some of the recent homebrew stuff. I had these up here in the office for we were recording the news segment for episode 43, and I just wanted to be able to refer to the boxes, refer to the authors and publishers and stuff like that. So I had
neat to see all that stuff.
I don't have any game show and tell, but I could play some audio.
Play my favorite clip, Paul.
Well, I have one. Let's see if this comes through to you.
The best part of this stupid show is me telling you that you're listening to it.
pretty much.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I got to get her to record some more.
What better note to leave it on than that? So anyway, once again, thanks guys for joining in. Thanks all the chat for taking part. And we'll be back hopefully with C-Mart, Rev, and Luke sometime in the near future in the new year. We'll get Rev out here and we'll talk about some of his home brews and some of his history with the site and putting the home brews on. We'll see if that pans out. And I think it'll be really interesting, a lot of fun to do. Anyway, guys, looking forward to the next episode. Looking forward to lots more episodes. Can't wait to see the next game. We got the exclusive here. It's going to be Atlantis. I'll set that up there again. And that's a great game, man. That's one that I sort of putting on the back burner because, like you say, you don't want to do all your favorite games first. And that's definitely one of my top 10. It was in my top 10 list.
Did you have it as a kid? I did.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Atlantis, and I had Atlantis, Beauty and the Beast, Microsurgeon, Demon Attack.
Me too.
All those, they were great. The Magic games, it was kind of like when the new Magic games come out, it was high priority to get them because they were just such great quality, right? Anyway, on that note, we will see you guys all later. Take care. Thanks again.
Thanks, Pete. It was fun.
Thanks, guys.
Well, guys, thank you very much for watching this interview again. It was so much fun to do that back in 2021 at the very end of the year. Love the shows that these guys do. Seabart, Paul, Rick, fantastic stuff. And I really appreciate you taking the time to catch it again today or maybe seeing it for the first time. And I can't wait to be back with you live for my next episode. It probably won't even be next week. I'll have another one of these best of interviews up next week. But I'll be back the week after that with some very special gameplay live stream or interview live stream, or we'll do something special anyway. It's going to be a lot of fun post PRGE. Anyway, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you in the next stream.
Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. Papa Pete, the old ass gamer. If you have been
You're watching Papa Pete, the old guy gamer.